Oh my, why am I? Hi, Paul.
Hello, Linda.
Hey, Paul.
How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Looks like you've been busy going around to all those committees.
Oh, yes. I had a fun October. So, and I spent this morning calling communities to see if they could, and unfortunately was not able to touch base with anybody. I did get a call back from one on the cannabis. The one person I did speak to had been there a year and a half. He's like, I don't even know if we have, they're growing. And he's like, oh, well, it says they are. And then he said he'd gotten no complaints, but then when I was looking online, it looks like they were moving into a new facility a year and a half ago. I'm like, oh, if he's been there a year and a half, so I reached out to the planner in the town they moved to with it when they expanded. So
It'd be nice if we could visit one.
that'll be the next question.
Yeah.
That'll be the next question. So, all right.
Okay, so I call to order the December 9th meeting of the PZC Regulatory Review Committee at 3:39 p.m. Members present are Luann Cooley, Paul Aho, Craig Wooch, and we have minutes from all the way back on September 17th. Seems like it wasn't that long ago.
No. I would move to, this is Cooley, and I would move to accept the minutes as presented.
Okay, and I second it, and that's all the votes we have. So it's approved unanimously. Since Craig wasn't here for that particular meeting.
Right.
I assume we have no opportunity. There's no one in the public that wants to comment.
No.
And take it away, Linda.
All right. Thank you very much. So I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on where we are with cannabis and what the next steps are going to be. So Craig, just to give you a little bit of background, back in June, the commission adopted a moratorium through March to give themselves time to say, okay, and it, quite frankly, at the time we did the moratorium, no one even knew what was when it was proposed. We didn't even know what was going to be in the act. We just knew that it was a likely possibility. And so later in the summer, the Regulatory Review Committee started meeting, and that is the timeline and framework document that you have that was prepared working with the committee and the commission to say, all right, how do we want to approach this? And so what I can go through an overview for you just to kind of orient you with that. And then since that time, as Paul noticed, I did a few meetings with some other advisory
You've
committees
been busy.
to get their input. So those minutes I did upload this morning. And the council has asked that before they meet with the commission to discuss the framework, that we do not do that while students are not at the university, and B, that we do some other type of outreach. So we're exploring sending out a survey. Don't ask me how I'm going to craft said survey. But they essentially are saying we want to get feedback on the framework before we go to getting feedback on regulations. I think there's a fear that if we do the regulations, then people go, oh my God, you did these regulations. It's the first time we have to comment. Normally, with the way the commission would handle this process is whenever the commission is initiating changes to the regulations, the commission is not subject to the same statutory timeframes as a regular applicant. So, hi Vera.
You must be in the town hall.
She's in the town hall. Can tell
Okay.
from the background.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
She's muted.
You're still muted.
All
There
right.
you go.
There we go.
You didn't hear my excuses, so that's okay.
That's right. No problem. We just started.
We just started giving some background on where things stand with cannabis. So what I was just saying is that when the commission initiates amendments, you have no timelines. There is no deadline for you to open a public hearing, close a public hearing, make a decision, because essentially it's your initiative. Those timelines only apply when someone else is asking for something to be done. So the way the commission has handled this in the past is sometimes they'll get some feedback from advisory committees. They'll have a public hearing, and quite frankly, if the public hearing doesn't go well, or if they get a lot of feedback, they basically withdraw it and go back and make adjustments. So that happened a few years ago with affordable housing, where the first public hearing, they got some feedback and they said, you know what, we're going to go back to the drawing board. We want to reconsider this a little bit. What makes this a little bit unique is that we have the moratorium piece. So we don't have a lot, we do have a time constraint now that we wouldn't normally. And so as I was kind of working through this in the recent request from the mayor and deputy mayor to hold off on a framework discussion until mid-January, I started crunching the numbers and the clock and going, oh my goodness, we may need some special meetings. Like I literally am probably going to have things drafted and just to make edits to after that framework discussion. And in talking with the town attorney, I think, just so you're all aware, I think one thing that I would recommend is given that time frame where the moratorium expiring on March 21st, that I may put two things forward. One is the regulation changes and one is a moratorium extension. And, so the moratorium extension could actually run ahead of it. And literally, you could do a moratorium extension and then go, oh, if we finish by March 21st, great. It's a moot point. But I think the bigger thing is just, again, trying to make sure that you have that protection in place. There are a lot of communities that the approach that what I'm hearing around the state is most communities have either A, done a moratorium, or B, just prohibited it to give themselves time. So they basically said, we need time and we're just going to prohibit it outright until we have the time to figure out what we want to do. So
I don't think we should be in any hurry. And since it's a controversial subject, we need to be sure that we've contacted as many people as possible and that nobody feels like they haven't had a chance to express their opinion.
So it sounds like a moratorium extension is something you guys are good with.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I'm going to work on that. I was telling Paul before the rest of you got here that we did this week get somebody who may be submitting a modification to a subdivision. So if that happens, we may have that December 20th meeting that I was trying to avoid. But that's because we don't have a January 3rd meeting. So we did consciously not schedule anything, given the proximity to the holidays, and it leaves a month without a meeting for you guys, which is just a long stretch. So
But it'll be a short meeting.
if we have it, but what I may do is, based on this conversation, if we have to have that meeting on the 20th, I may do the moratorium extension, just so
Okay.
we can kind of get that ball rolling. So
Okay.
the one thing with these amendments is because they basically impact townwide, we do have to give the regional planning agencies 35 days and surrounding communities 35 days to review and comment. So I don't expect any comments, but it's state law that we do it. So we'll go through that process.
May I
Uh,
just,
yep.
may I just add something to what we, I think, are already thinking? This is such a hot issue, and people want to get in on the ground floor, and they want to make money fast, and they want to just grab whatever they can get to get started. And being a college town, I assume that we have a target on our back. So I hope that we will very carefully find our way through this on what we want, where we want, and have the people that are in those areas talk about it, sign off on it, because it's going to be a very hot issue.
So, and I will say, I think one of the, just so you're all aware, one of the challenges that I had in my little listening tour back in October and November was, quite frankly, not having regulations to react to. The committees did not know what to do with it.
Anything. Yeah.
They literally sat there and went, I don't know what, they didn't know what to comment on because they didn't have a proposed rule. So even the framework that we did was not enough detail for them. So that's the one thing that does make me nervous about this idea of a survey or something else, because it's hard to react to something. And the ARPA survey that we did on how to spend the ARPA funds, I think was another good example. Is it was so such a big concept that I think people had a hard time wrapping their arms around it and saying, yes, no. So, but I agree that I think, we have options. And that was one thing the town attorney told me as well. He's like, you can also just ban it. The town council could actually ban it and say,
I don't think they want to, though.
Yeah.
No, I mean, seriously, I think that they.
I don't think they do either. At least from the discussions that I've heard, but I think Kevin's point was that's what communities are doing to simply buy themselves time.
Yeah. But
And Linda, one of the biggest questions people will have is if for the growers, the cultivators, or whoever, is the odor. And we don't have a definitive answer on that. We never have had it. And with agrobotic, we don't have a definitive answer on that. So I think we really need to, I think we need to go somewhere and check it out,
And that's part of my update today, but Craig had his hand raised.
I did. I read through the minutes of the other agencies that were talking about this, and I agree that I think the mayor is supportive of it to the point where she felt that it should be, if there was a hybrid dispensary, she felt it should be on a bus route, so it was access to public transportation even. So I think it's probably headed that way. And you have a liquor store next to the transportation center already, so maybe she'll go for that. But there are a lot of different aspects to this, and when you're talking about cultivation, I haven't seen a definition really of cannabis yet that excludes growing hemp and all those issues with hemp. Hemp is considered agriculture, but cannabis is not.
Correct.
But aren't they the same plant?
From what I've read, I think the odor is actually worse with the cannabis than with the hemp.
disagree only because I live right near the Yukon test fields where they
Oh.
planted this acre of hemp, and they
Uh-huh.
put up a sign, contains no THC, won't get you high. But it smelled like you ran over a pack of skunks every time you went by it.
Okay.
And if
Ooh.
that is the smell from hemp, what they claim was hemp, I'm not sure that there's a point of difference between hemp and cannabis.
Yeah.
Now, Luann,
Yeah, having read through all the minutes where people were not giving you any guidance whatsoever, and looking at the,
Downtown Partnership, I would say, was the exception.
yeah, sure.
They were
And-
very engaged.
Yeah, and and thinking about, I would say, the things that we're concerned about with growing and looking at the proposed regulation that you have in this sheet.
Yep.
It seems like we should just put something out there as a first proposition that's very conservative. So say we're not going to have producers or cultivators or anything that's growing. Just take that off the table as a conservative first pass. And I think the other thing that people are concerned about a little bit is having facilities in downtown because of proximity to the high school. And I personally don't think there's any problem having it downtown, but I have a high schooler and they're like squirrels, you know what I mean? Like, no, they seriously have all the time in the world to keep testing and probing and seeing if they can get to that feeder. And I just think that that cannabis is a sort of different than alcohol sales in that regard, and could be problematic as far as that goes. So I can see where limiting it in downtown for now, at least, would make some sense. And and I do like I think the idea of putting it on a bus line is intelligent. Honestly, you don't want people driving who may be consuming, right? And it gives you more access, but I don't know where else you put that would allow, or where else you would allow that could make that happen, I guess.
well, it could be anywhere along that bus line. It's a long bus line. So
Bus line.
Craig, did you have something you want to say? Yeah,
I did, but it went away.
okay.
So one concept, and I can't remember, obviously I don't do the minutes for these other committees, and I don't know that they capture everything, but one question that I did receive from the chair of the EDC was, kind of like, well, can we pick who the retailer will be,
Yeah, I saw
where, and we can't. But
Oh.
as I thought about that, I was like, well, we can't pick a retailer. But the way the framework is right now, it identifies multiple districts where they might locate.
Mhm.
So
Right.
one thing you could do is to narrow that down and say, you know what, we can't pick who it's going to be, but we can narrow down
Where? Yeah.
where it's going to be.
Mhm.
And so that, that's an option.
Yeah, Craig.
Well, I think one challenge is going to be that from the notes I read, they're requesting a reservation system for people to purchase their for people to purchase. It won't be a walk-in retail, it would be by reservation. And that would not work downtown stores, as you'd have a whole line of people down the sidewalk waiting for their reservations times. It would be better in some other area. And if they choose to go the reservation route, you really need a holding area for them. And I don't think that's downtown stores.
Are you talking about the medical marijuana? So the dispensaries are appointment only. That's, or was it?
I think even the hybrid stores. Well, if the hybrid store sells medical marijuana and recreational
Yeah.
marijuana, I don't know if they said that would require a reservation. I know the dispensaries in Hartford or in Massachusetts do not require reservations. I don't know why they put that in there about the reservations. It seemed that wherever you have a store, you would want to get people off the streets and the sidewalk into the store and back out.
Well, wouldn't
you
you
wouldn't
get
want
that with
them
a
lined up.
reservation? Wouldn't you get that more with a reservation system? Because
I-
people would
yeah.
come when their reservation is rather than standing around waiting.
Yeah,
But if
like
you were
today
first-
I had a reservation at Starbucks for a coffee. And I got there at 11:28 and picked it up and left. I was gone in 30 seconds. So I actually spent less time in the store and waiting outside the store.
I will say I've never seen a crowd at the dispensary that we currently have. So, and I have toured the dispensary. So in that I will, from a sales standpoint, I will say if you're interested in touring the dispensary, we can probably arrange for that. If that's something that you'd like to do.
Is that still operating?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know we had one, but perhaps which is perfect, I suppose. I mean, so the location then it's in is really a favorable location. It's behind the Red Rock Brewery. Is that what I understand?
It's
somewhere behind the Red Rock.
It's where the St. Paul Church was. It's in
up
a
at
church.
Corners, it's on Stores Road, kind of across from maybe the dog training, the former Willards, either across or a little bit.
Okay.
It's called Nature's Medicines.
Okay.
Like a big gray, kind of a big pole barn, sort of beige-ish.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
they're
very
in the front.
nondescript building.
I know where it is now. I just didn't realize, and I recognize the name on the sign. I just didn't know that's what it was.
That's not a bad spot because it has lots of parking and it's not near the high school.
Yeah, and the owner has contacted me to tell me that, or the owner of the building, that he has a dance studio interested in that space. And I'm like, and they're aware, he's like, yep, they're aware of the dispensary. They do not care. Like they have no, and they have, children coming. They're like, nope, they have no issues. So
I don't really think it's a big issue, to be honest. I mean, not to be.
No, and they were also aware that I think, because I asked him, I said, is the dispensary interested in moving to hybrid? And I think they are. And he was like, yep, and they still don't care. I'm like, okay, so.
Well, and that's another part too, is that we're limited to the number of these stores we can have in town, in the whole town.
Right. So there's one retailer, the hybrid, I don't think they put a number on, but again, my guess is.
But you're limited to number of dispensaries, aren't you?
Well, I don't know I think one of the challenges, I was just talking to a zoning official in another community today, and they haven't released how many licenses they're going to issue, in the first round. 50% of them are going to disadvantaged businesses and areas. I don't think we're going to fall into that category. So, so I think you have that. There's, so I think in terms of the retailers, I think we can, again, if you'd like a tour, I can see if we can get a tour of Nature's Medicine so you can kind of understand how it is today. My guess is they may have an idea of what they would change to become a retailer. I have, and I did not include it yet, but I did do some research because my sense from the meetings with the committee, with the commission, have been, and even to an extent with these other groups, has been, let's talk about the retail and put the cultivation on the back burner, because that seems to be where everyone is like, we're really unsure of this. I did do some outreach and got one response in terms of from an attorney who did some regulations for a community in Rhode Island on odor. What was interesting was when I read the regulations, I'm like, oh, they're prohibiting it, but they basically are, I think, worried that the state may overrule them and say they have to allow it. And so what they did was write regulations that say it's prohibited, but in the event that it's no longer prohibited at some point in time, here's everything you need to do. And it literally has some standards. It has some standards on odor. I also reached out and left some messages today for planners in the communities that have the current producers. So there are 4 producers of medical marijuana in the state. And so I did reach out to those communities. I talked to, unfortunately, the one person I was actually able to talk to live. He's been there for 1.5 years, and he's like, I didn't even know we had one. He had to pull the file. He's like, oh, it does say that they're authorized to grow. And he said, I've never gotten a complaint on this. I'm like, well, that's great. Like, the fact that you didn't know it was there is wonderful. He's been there 18 months. And then I was kind of Googling something for the company, and I kept seeing, it wasn't saying Portland, it was saying Rocky Hill. And I'm like, why does it say you're in Rocky Hill? They expanded in summer of 2020 and moved to Rocky Hill. And I'm like, oh, so you've been there 18 months. which is about the same amount of time that they moved to Rocky Hill. So I've now reached out to Rocky Hill. And I'm also talking, you know,
It'd be
I do
interesting
have
to
a-
see, it'd be interesting to see if they moved because there was too much odor.
Or
No,
if
they
it-
just moved because they need more space. So they
Okay.
were, according to the articles, there were articles and news stories at the time, and it sounds like they had about 13 to 15,000 square feet of space in Portland, which what is downtown, is on their main street, according to the zoning officer. And I want to say they've moved into a space that is about 200,000 square feet in
Ooh,
Rocky Hill. So
wow.
one of the things that, and in listening to one of the news stories, one of the things that the owner of the business identified was that the state had expanded the number of dispensary licenses. And so they were seeing increased demand and they didn't have the space to accommodate it. So they needed to move so they could grow their operation. So I do have a call back, and you know, and I will talk to the planner in Watertown. And you know, I'm not going to make this an urgent matter, because again, I think that, you know, that's the one that I'm seeing everyone wants to take their time on, is to say, look, maybe we just say no cultivation right now, period. And, you know, and I think there's definitely, to Luann's point, fear. I was meeting with someone today about a property that had been bought adjacent to them, and like, oh, we want to know what this gentleman wants to do. Like, you know, our neighbor told us he wants to grow pot. And I was like,
Nope.
I don't think that's what he's told us. I know he met with the agriculture committee the same night that I presented, but I was doing dueling meetings, so I missed his presentation. But you know, that I think that is, you know, one of those things where people are like, are they going to start growing, you know, on these large plots? And, you know, I don't know what the state regulations are going to be. I did get a communication from, and I think the commission has got them from a resident who's interested in allowing these businesses in town. He offered to arrange a tour of a facility in Massachusetts, and he did tell me that one was an outdoor facility, which I was kind of surprised that they even are doing this outdoors, given the security. So what he told me was that the outdoor facility, I think he said there are cameras every 10 to 15 feet on the fence. And during an active grow season, they have a security guard on premises 24/7. So that's what I've learned so far. But again, my sense of this is probably what I've been hearing from you guys is, let's focus on the retail and the other, you know, the transportation, the production, and leave the cultivation.
Yep.
To.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Craig.
In addition to cultivation, there's the other cottage business issue about being able to create THC products, but not actually cultivate the cannabis yourself. Are we also considering a moratorium on those type businesses?
So right now we have, so what was in the framework was essentially, I think those were going to be considered by, so the ones that you're speaking of, Craig, are the food and beverage manufacturer, product manufacturer, and product packager, and delivery service. And so the proposal, or that what was discussed was that the product manufacturing and packaging and food and beverage would be considered by special permit in the, so Plan Business 1, and let me share my screen so I can actually show you the map and kind of orient you. But while I'm doing that, the one thing I will say is that we did, the committee did specifically recommend that we not allow any type of home business that uses cannabis. So that would be a prohibited home occupation. So you can't start up essentially in your kitchen.
That seems reasonable. I have one quick question about the delivery service. I think allowing that is sensible, because I think delivery is going to happen. And if we have it,
and we can't prohibit it either.
well, if we have it in a licensed way, because this is someone that's licensed to deliver cannabis, that seems to be a sensible way to regulate that. But my question is, if we in Mansfield have a retail place that has a delivery system and say Ashford bans the sale, is the sale considered to be in Mansfield or is it considered to be in Ashford where the person did it online?
Yeah, I would assume it's in Mansfield because basically it says you cannot prohibit delivery within your community. So.
Yeah, but this would be in a different town. Like, can you buy? from
Right, but what I'm
Mansfield
saying is, so
versus-
for example, if
I
Ashford
see,
says, no, we don't want an establishment in our community, you can still live in Ashford and order cannabis
Okay,
for delivery.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that,
Mansfield could get the tax revenue and
right,
Ashford
right.
would.
and I will say that when I discussed this, I was at a couple of meetings with the Economic Development Commission on this, and I know the chair kind of between meetings went back and looked at it, and he said, I wasn't really liking this idea of allowing these initially, but he's like, but if anyone in Mansfield can get it anyway,
Exactly.
then at that point, why would we not consider, you're not stopping anyone in town from acquiring it. That you're not going to stop somebody from acquiring it or consuming it. So in terms of, so what we talked about for those, excuse me, those districts was the Plan Business 3. So this is the Four Corners area. So Route 195, 44. So the pink area here. The institutional zone, which is gray, quite frankly, mostly Yukon campus. There are a few town hall, community center, EO Smith. I don't think we're starting up cannabis
What is the
production.
rationale for
Huh?
that? What's the rationale for including the institutional zone?
We can actually take it out.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We can take it out.
We don't have any control anyway over what Yukon does.
right.
And that's the one, just so you are aware, our liaison with the president's office was in 2 of the meetings that I spoke at, and she has asked me to meet with them directly. So we're gonna be doing that next week.
Good.
So she wanted to get folks from the administration.
So
Yeah,
King Hill would be Planned Business 2, right?
Plan Business 4.
4. Is that included?
Mm-mm.
It should be.
I need to go, sorry, it's plan, so I think what we
This
said
is
for
retail.
these, so for both for sales and manufacturing, we said, all right, so retailing, we did include in in downtown, so Four Corners, King Hill Road, down by Eastbrook Mall, so the Plan Business 1, and then Perkins Corner
Mhm.
was what we said for retailers, hybrid retailers, and I believe those are so the difference on the production side was that we essentially said for King Hill Road, it's so small over there.
Okay,
that
so it wouldn't be good for
It
production.
would be based on scale, so you'd really have to have I think you'd have to have some limitations on how large
Yeah, that
a
makes
production
sense.
facility could be.
But we're gonna not even do production, right?
No, that was, so when I say production, I mean product production, like
production.
taking
Okay,
the
gotcha.
cannabis
Not
and making.
Not cultivation. but
Not-
Got it. I
production.
see it. Yeah, product manufacturer. Product
It's
manufacturer.
confusing because I think what ended up happening was they did not want to change the terms that were in the medical marijuana legislation where they use the term producer.
Mhm.
So now we have producers and cultivators.
Mhm.
They're both growing marijuana. It's just I think they wanted to avoid making any changes to that initial legislation. So for downtown, it was, let's get the input of the downtown partnership on how they would feel about any types of businesses in the
Mhm.
downtown area. And the same, so my feeling is Plan Business 2 are these little pink areas that you see. And so that's essentially University Plaza, Stores Commons.
Mhm.
There's a little office building that's kind of wrapped around by the garage on Dog Lane. And then the other pink here is actually the parking lot for Store Center. So
Did the downtown partnership have an opinion, a strong opinion, one way or the other?
They had a lot of discussion, and now I'm gonna have to read their minutes to see if they ended up where they ended up. It all blurs together for me. I'm not gonna lie.
I read the minutes, but it didn't seem like they came to a conclusion.
They may not have. Again, I think a lot of this was, again, it was challenging for people to understand.
Yeah. Vera?
I just feel, I mean, it may be that cannabis will resurrect downtown stores, but I really think because of its closeness to E.O. Smith, that we shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. Yeah, there's
And-
plenty other
and-
places.
I mean, it just, I just think we shouldn't, and it shouldn't be in the middle school area either, which it isn't, but.
It won't
Yeah.
be there. Yeah.
It's not going to be near the middle school, the elementary school. You know, downtown, what we got from downtown, it was interesting because I think when we had these initial discussions with the commission and the committee, we had some that were thinking about the high school, proximity to the high school, others that thought about the proximity to the child care center. And, you know, and again, we can adopt distance separation. So in talking to someone, the zoning officer from Portland today, he's working on regulations. And, you know, he's like, yeah, I think we're going to end up with something similar to how we treat adult businesses, that they'll have some type of separation from schools based on that. So, but
On the liquor stores, are there not, those have been removed?
yep, we got rid of those. So we used to have separation distances from package stores to schools, so I can pull those up again if it's something that folks want to revisit. And I know hours of operation, I think we had discussed whatever limits the state places on the sale of alcohol.
Yep, that seems reasonable.
So,
Maybe they could just sell it in the liquor stores, and that would make it.
I think
We
people's
don't
minds
have
are
any
set.
restrictions either.
well, and
Well-
again, I think there are definitely folks who are interested in this. I think as Luann said, there's money to be, and Vera, there's money to be made here. You know, people are looking at that. But again, I don't know how many licenses. I will tell you, I spent some time after speaking with the Mansfield resident who's been sending you letters, trying to figure out what was going on the state side of things. And the website is just not, it literally is like, we're working on regulations. Okay.
Right.
I read minutes of the Social Equity Council and tried to figure out from like where they are in their process. And I think
Well, the bill's
it's,
like 90 pages, right?
Hmm?
Isn't the bill like 90 pages long?
oh no, it's 300.
300.
Well, that's
That's just the
another.
legislation. We haven't gotten to the regulation, the actual enacting
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
regulations. That's just
Right.
it's 300 pages, which is, I've told every committee, I have not read the entire 300
Nope.
pages. I have word searched for things that, you know,
Mhm.
I think apply to us.
That's exactly what I did to it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, generally speaking, the agriculture committee wondered why I was talking to them, given the fact that the legislature specifically said that cultivation of cannabis is not agriculture,
Mhm.
which is a fair point.
Yeah, we're just
Um,
talking to everybody, that's all.
you know, so I think, you know, my takeaway from this meeting, and again, I'll continue to do outreach. I had put some stuff on the listserv. I didn't hear back from many people. I take it back. I did hear from the planner in Brooklyn. They are looking at allowing cultivation in their industrial district. And she's like,
Great.
well, we don't have a producer. She's like, but I can smell the Frito-Lay factory, which is about 4.5 miles from my office. So,
But we don't have an industrial district, so.
right. We don't have an industrial district, and that seems to be where folks are locating these.
Yeah.
But again, I think that was why the Portland one was interesting to me, because if they were growing on Main Street in Portland, I was curious as to, you know, what, and again, they didn't seem to move because of issues. They seemed to move more because they were just, they'd outgrown the space. And didn't.
Yeah,
have
I mean, I think people's sort of initial thought about this is still thinking about it as an illegal substance and thinking about it as something, you know, bad. But the growers, I mean, these are high-tech, high-security facilities that are, you know, they're not shady, they're not, you know, run down or tawdry or anything like that. So you really could stick it literally anywhere and it would fit in just fine.
And I will say that I am gonna look at the Rhode Island regulations that Dwight Merriam sent me, because in addition to the odor, I think they actually had some things on exterior appearance, which I thought were good. So, you know, if we can do it, and again, without the state regulations, it's tough. But I think one of the things about Nature's Medicine that was striking is they had to put bars on like all the windows and the doors. And the regulations that Dwight shared with me basically say you need to do your security inside. Like, don't, you're not putting bars outside, or you can do roll down things, but you know, you need to, it needs to be done in a way that's not as it is obvious on the exterior. And I think folks have found a way to do this. I know Jen has mentioned that, you know, when she was in California, Colorado, you see these, they look like little storefronts. They're not, you know, they don't have all of that, you know, the bars, and we're keeping everybody out. So we'll see. But so I think what I'll do is, I said, I'll work on an extension to the moratorium. And then I think, you know, at this point, I'll just operate under the, unless we get any other information that changes folks' minds, that we're just going to focus on the retail operations, no on the cultivation. And then where are we landing on the production of products, the kind of, you know, making food and beverages, making, I don't know what else you make with this, honestly. So I
think that is so much scarier than cultivation. You don't know what people, who is going to control these people. The state, I presume, would, but that is much scarier than cultivation.
I think it may not be as, the odor may not be a problem there, at least.
So here's the question: if you are a retailer and we banned production of these things, they could still sell them, right? From other places. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So fine. If that's problematic, because it seems like it would be hard.
Not sure why it would be problematic. Seems like that would be.
Well, is it under food and beverage license?
So the statute identifies different types. So they have identified a food and beverage manufacturer, so someone who is licensed to own and operate a place of business that acquires cannabis and creates food and beverages. A product manufacturer, so they are licensed to obtain cannabis, extract and manufacture products exclusive to such license type. And a product packager, so you're licensed to package and label cannabis. Those are the three. And then we had the delivery service, you know, person licensed to deliver cannabis, you know, from a micro cultivator retailer, hybrid retailer, to consumers and research programs, to patients, to, you know, so that was the other one. And then transporter, we really didn't get into, because that means you're licensed to transport. So, you know, the delivery service, I think the idea there with the special permit was, if you want to have a service where you have vehicles coming and going, you know, that needs to be in a commercial district. It should not be, you know, in a residential district. I mean, the reality is, if somebody is if they're a transporter, no one's coming to their home. We don't even consider that a home business. You know, we wouldn't even know if you leave your house, or if you're, you know, working for a delivery service with your personal vehicle, we don't know.
Do we have any regulatory power on transporter? I wouldn't think.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
that's why it's just here, because I think we are, you know, again, and then they're revising to prohibit home occupations. And then I think the only other one that I saw was a laboratory. And so this is essentially the way they define laboratory is that you're licensed to do the analysis of cannabis to make sure it's meeting state regulatory requirements. So it's coming to you, you're doing the chemical analysis, and then it's going
that seems like a good business to have in town.
So we said wherever labs are permitted. So I think the issue is, right now we don't have labs permitted very many places. So this may be one where you actually want to say, while we're still working on the research lab component, is, you know, what districts. And I think the ones we've discussed previously are literally the same as the retailers. It's the planned business districts where we discussed labs.
Yeah.
So
there's no retail sale whatsoever associated with that. So that doesn't seem like it's a big deal.
No, that's all they're doing is testing.
All right. Well, yeah, it seems like this is pretty straightforward. I think that the commissions and committees that we've asked for feedback from just need a little bit more. And I think we can give that to them if we just tell them what we've just talked about as far as allowing and not allowing.
And I think we can, and this will also kind of provide, when we go to the council. So what I think I'm going to do is probably, if I do a survey, if we do like a Survey Monkey for the public, is I'm going to base it on this conversation. So basically or do you want me to even ask the question about cultivation, or do you want me to just take that off the table?
I feel like what we're trying to do here is serve the people of Mansfield, right? And there is some interest, or whatever you want to call it, in retail sale.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't know if cultivation helps the people of Mansfield in any way other than tax revenue. And it could be problematic in terms of,
Well, let's just take that off the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
And get the retail and perhaps the packaging and analysis parts. I think. Ask people how they think about that, what they think about that.
So I'll try and figure out how to put this in a survey that people can do over the holidays, because that's what you want to do over the holidays, is take a survey about cannabis.
Well, I think the affordable housing survey that went out was really helpful. I mean, I know you probably didn't get as many responses as you would have liked, but I think people saw it.
You know what? I actually will say, the first survey we did on affordable housing, we got, I think, 880 responses.
Yeah,
And that is huge. And as we put it, like, even with the second one that we did on the draft strategies, I forget how many we got. It wasn't huge, but Jennifer and I both looked and we said, and that is more people than would have shown up to a community meeting if we had one.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
That's
it
good.
just, I will say, for those, with both of those, we did mailers to get to kind of spread the word. And that's kind of that, like that. And that's the discussion I'll have to have with the town manager is this something that you want to spend and have us do a mailer on for people to provide input? Because that's just a monetary question, and it well in time to get that, done up, sent out, designed, all of that. And we also have to figure out the survey, and I don't have a consultant to write this survey like I did last time. So, all right. So I think that helps. We'll take kind of cultivation off the table at this point. And I've got to find, I think the hard thing for me is to try and figure out, I would love to, if I could do a map of this and say, this is where we're talking about different things. That might be the easiest thing if I could show people and go, okay, now you see it. Does this make sense? So, okay. So the next item on the agenda is a new one for you guys. And I put it on here because I've been working with the owners of Kirby Mill. And they were actually going to come in and do a pre-application with you, and they backed out. They're just really concerned and trying to figure out what to do, and are concerned with their ability to get tenants and use the mill, because currently the mill is a non-conforming use. So it's, and as I think most of you know, and I know Luann knows, non-conforming uses and zoning are things that you intend to eventually go away. And I think everyone would agree that Kirby Mill is not necessarily something that we want to see go away. And it's not going to be a single family home. And so the language under non-conformities, it is very restrictive when it comes to special permits and what you're doing, because again, you want it to eventually go away. And so as I was talking with them, like, I don't think anyone in town wants this to go away. And I've been here 10 years and literally just learned through these meetings that we sold them the mill. That the town actually acquired. I honestly, I knew it had formerly been owned by UConn. I thought the university sold them the mill. The town actually acquired the mill from the university because we were concerned about preserving it. And they had an entire committee, and then we ended up selling it to the Schifrins. So
this is incredibly clever.
Yeah, and so when I was talking with them, and again, they're like, wait, this isn't something they don't feel they have the capacity to kind of, go through the process of trying to propose zoning amendments and everything else. But I was like, well, you know what, we need to talk about cannabis. We need to have a calendar discussion. So as part of that, you know, being a planner, I don't like to reinvent the wheel. So I look to see what other people have done. And so the one I found from Massachusetts, I thought was interesting because it actually deals, quite frankly, with, it would not only deal with Kirby Mill, but the concept would also help us deal with municipal buildings, which we are in the middle of a facility study right now. And, you know, as everyone is aware, you know, a year from now, we're going to have 2 elementary schools that are going to be empty. And so I thought this was interesting because, again, you're going to have buildings that really are not, they're in single family neighborhoods. They're not designed for single family use. What can they be used for? So I just wanted to start the conversation to see if this is a concept that makes sense to the commission to look at creating an adaptive reuse provision, which makes it I'm not saying it's, you know, by right by any means, but that takes away, again, some of that, you know, oh, if you're doing a non-conforming use, you have to decrease in intensity. You have to, you know, all of these things, because it just is, it's not something that is realistic. And I know from talking with the owners of Kirby Mill, you know, they have a special permit to do manufacturing. That is not what the market is. And, you know, the folks that are coming to them to lease are not looking to do manufacturing. You know, they want to do hair salons. They want to do, you know, things that they're not permitted for. And that, you know, that the process to change that is a little overwhelming for them. And so I wanted to at least start the discussion with you guys since we were meeting to see if this is an idea that you're open to.
Yeah. Have you looked at New Britain? Because I know
I have not.
I know they have a bunch of churches right on
Okay.
the main street that have become other things, and that might fall into this kind of adaptive reuse.
Yeah, I wonder what's going to happen to the church that was sold on 32
Eagleville.
and
She wants to do a
South
single
Eagleville.
family. She wants to turn it into a single family house.
A single family house. Wow.
The one on the
okay.
corner of 32 and 275.
Yeah.
Yes,
I kind of
Wow.
love that.
I guess
She's-
I'll have to put in a septic system, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the irony of this is there's a septic system on that property, but it is actually for the firehouse.
Oh,
Oh, that's
We-
okay.
We have an easement on the property for a septic system for the firehouse. But yes, that you know, that I did not realize until that property was for sale, and I was talking to the realtor and he's like, oh, there are no bathrooms. I'm like, what do you mean there are no bathrooms in the church? He's like, there are no bathrooms in the church. I said,
Yeah.
what do he goes, he's like, they go next door to the firehouse. Like it's been this nice, like, but I was just sitting there going, I cannot imagine being a parent with a small child in that church when the child needs to use a bathroom and going, let me run across the parking lot. And
Well, actually, if any of you remember Alice's Restaurant, the song, Alice lived in a church.
so, yeah, no, the owner came in because I was actually curious as well, because it was not, we didn't, when we looked at the sale, I'm like, this is not someone that I remember speaking to. Obviously we had a lot of interest in that for various things. And when she stopped in, I'm like, oh, we've been wondering, like, so what are your plans? She's like, I want to turn it into a home. And I was like, I'm like, wow. And she goes, yeah, she's like, I feel like I might have bitten off more than I can chew. I was like, well, you know, but it's a cool building. You know,
Do you
and
have
there
to
were
keep-
there. I will tell you, there were a lot of ideas. I know somebody was joking that they wanted to open a bar called the Confessional.
That's great.
I like that idea.
I thought that was really good. I was like, oh, I could open a bakery there if I wanted to.
There you go, right next to the confessional.
I was like, oh, can we do it? Like, I'll do the bakery during the day, you do the confessional at night. Well,
Does the exterior have to remain intact?
there's no regulations on that. So
No.
but again, I think someone buying this for a house is, you know,
That's what they want the
is
charm
going
of
to
it.
try. I know they've already, I think the church removed some of the stained glass before they left.
Yeah, in the back they did, but I
yeah.
think the main area still has all the stained glass.
Yeah.
I think Ken left a little too early. This would be right down his alley.
Yeah. it would. All right.
So,
No, yeah,
Well-
let's go forward with that reuse. That seems
okay,
like
so
something.
I'll just explore. I mean, we kind of dabbled in this a few years ago when Joshua's trust inherited Isabel Atwood's estate. And you know, they came in and they did the, you know, they basically wrote something for them, and then we broadened it a little bit to other nonprofits, but it was really, it was just so narrow, because you have to be a nonprofit to take advantage of it. And I think, you know,
Yeah.
the reality is, I think if we can come up with something that is a little broader, it may give some flexibility to the mill, but also to some municipal and other buildings that, you know, just are not, you know, not being used and it can't be used for what they were originally designed for right now.
All right.
Linda, you've referred to the minutes of the other committees. I never got that. So is that a separate entity of this packet?
They're in the packet. They're identified with, I updated the packet and they have little asterisks next to them under
I guess I
cannabis
don't have-
establishments.
Sandy sent me the hookup and it's not, doesn't seem to be there.
It's in
It's
the
not-
latest, it's in the latest one that she sent out.
Okay,
Yeah, there's a link in those minutes. If not, if it's not working, Vera, I'll come down to your office. We'll figure out what's going on.
I'll work on it.
You're down the hall. So that leaves, the only other item I had for you today was the calendar. So
And those are the dates those are the dates I have other meeting in the afternoon. If it's at 10 a.m., it's all right.
I think that we
Like-
changed it to 10 a.m. So that was,
Yeah.
I did that based on your,
Yeah, that should be all right.
could we
That
do
should be all right.
9? Would 9 be better?
Well, that's if other people have it. 9 would be better for me, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to have a 12 o'clock and a 1 o'clock on that day too.
Okay.
10 o'clock would be better for me.
I mean, here's what I'm gonna say is, quite frankly, I could very easily change this to different days of the week, because at 10 o'clock in the morning, we don't have a lot of, so if the first and third Thursdays at 10 a.m. works better, we can make that change. And just revise it accordingly.
It would make my life a little easier, but
Okay.
it would just mean I'd have to be planning ahead.
You know what, Luann, you guys, this committee, when you guys are meeting a lot, is so much work. The least we can do is make it easier for you.
If that's all
So
right.
so I would have to change the dates on here, but would it
Mhm.
change to the first and third Thursdays at
Yep.
10 a.m.? And then I will have Sandy change the dates before we file it.
That works for me.
It's fine with me.
I'm good.
And I hope we can meet in person sometime.
Yeah.
Actually, the fun part of this group is to pour over a map
Yeah.
on a big table.
It's the best.
All
Yeah.
does like that. He also likes to take them home and mark them up and bring them back.
So maybe
Yeah,
we'll
you
be
can-
able to do that again within
My
a year.
maps are
Oh,
right
yeah.
there.
Cross your
Right,
fingers.
there they are. Yeah.
So I will, if anyone's interested, I do feel it's my duty to just let you know that Mondays, you can do boosters at town hall. So just
Oh, that's good to
contact
know.
Eastern Highlands Health District, or hopefully it's in VAMS now. I know they were having problems a few weeks ago, so I lucked out because VAMS wasn't letting them schedule anything, and they had the time, so they just called me down and
Yeah,
Right,
I got
that
an
way.
email for some reason. I don't know where I got that. So I got my booster a couple weeks ago there.
yeah.
Great.
So,
Yeah.
but nope, and I think they're also doing a pediatric clinic on one
Mhm.
evening a week.
Yeah, that's I worked on the one for Mansfield and they did it at the middle school on Friday evenings. We just
Yeah.
did the second round of it actually last Friday. And then there are other ones at Coventry and Tolland, I think. Coming up. So yeah, it's good.
So, nope, I didn't have my card with me. They gave me a whole new one with all
Mhm.
3 on
Yep.
it, so.
Yeah, it's incredibly well run. Eastern Highlands has done a really magnificent job. I've been volunteering through the medical reserve corps since, I don't know, February, March or something. And it's really impressive how well the logistics are worked out.
All
Okay.
right, so I will keep you posted about a December 20th meeting. And
Alright.
if we don't have one, I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday and New Year.
Yeah, you
If we do have one, I should be there. If not, my very capable team will handle it without me. So I am planning on traveling and hopefully will be where I'm going by the 20th, but all up in the air. It's what happens when you have a 23-year-old who doesn't have his retail schedule nailed down yet. So All right, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.